Good late Friday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center with another update on the flooding that's ongoing here in the Southeastern Florida Big Bend. I'm seeing some pretty nasty reports coming in fact. So Roy wanted to jump on here once again to give you the latest as we got an update just a little while ago from the Weather Service in Tallahassee talking about the Cross-City situation. They're saying that flooding is still ongoing there as water levels are continuing to rise there along the airport canal, and additional heavy rain may affect the area this afternoon, and that's already happening now with additional water rises possible. So that flash flooding ongoing there, potentially a life-threatening weather situation. So really wanted to give you another update on what is happening there. Let's go ahead and pop up some of those tips here. We had them up earlier on our other update, but just want to see what to do in a flash flood situation. I mean, if necessary, move to higher ground. I mean, some people are actually having to stay put here, though. I know reading a report here a little while ago from the NASA Weather Service in Tallahassee, folks were kind of having trouble getting out of there, is what they were talking about there in their report. But now, high water rescue vehicle being used there to evacuate residents in the Ancient Oak subdivision due to river flooding there toward Taylor County, not even under the flash flood warning. This is off there toward that Taylor-Dixie County line. The Steinhatchee River having some issues here, unfortunately. So it kind of tells the story here with what is going on. Several other roads there are closed in addition to State Road 51 there at the Taylor and Dixie County line. I have a list here that the emergency management put together in Dixie County. This is as of an hour or so ago, maybe even about an hour and a half ago now. Purvis Landing Road was closed, as well as Dixie Main Line, Willie Lock Main Line, Bowlegs Main Line, Storm Main Line, Scrub Creek Road, Northeast 162nd Street, Northeast 214th Avenue, Northeast 210th Avenue, and Northeast 207th Avenue. So a pretty dangerous situation there toward Dixie County this afternoon. A lot of road closures, and really just seeing those totals add on up here. Not as much rain today, but we didn't need as much, unfortunately, because of the antecedent rainfall in the picture. This is the 1 hour estimate here toward Cross City, and you see over the last 12 hours more off toward the west, but we're just seeing more water here really accumulate, cause issues not going down here, and that is problematic, of course. So let's go ahead and switch on over to another viewpoint we have right now. You'll be able to kind of see what's going on over here as we get on to our GR level 3 computer. Now you don't see quite as much rain right in that flash flood warning polygon, but as we look off toward Steinhatchee there, right along the river though, we're seeing the conditions worsen. In fact, pretty incredible. Put this graphic together a little while ago, and the numbers still going to continue to update, obviously. But let's go on over toward the graphic system right now. The Steinhatchee River there, the Steinhatchee River near Cross City, the very latest information here from the National Weather Service in Tallahassee, kind of telling that story here. You can see earlier on in the week, not even in that flood stage, started getting that accident stage as we were looking back there toward Tuesday, and then getting into the minor flood stage, but in the moderate flood stage now. Major flood stage 26 feet. Now, we only got to that level one time, and that was after Hurricane Dora. And this is now at 24.05 feet. It looks like since the gauge was installed here 70 or so years ago, this is the second highest river level we've ever measured here toward this area. So not good news. A lot of other areas not seeing near the impact. That's why we didn't turn the logo red. This is an isolated incident, really more toward that southeastern Big Bend. We are seeing similar flooding toward Baker County as well, but not to this historic level, it doesn't seem. So I just wanted to let you guys know what's going on out here toward our southeastern Florida Big Bend areas. Just got to be mindful here, got to be cognizant. This is getting in that historic type range for a few folks here. So pretty nasty. I'm just going to read off some other reports we have here. Earlier on, a report there of Southeastern Wolf Road and Southeastern L.A. Bennett Road being closed due to flooding there in the ward part of Lafayette County. So let's go ahead and pop up our overview once again here. We also had a flash flood watch extended, so let's go ahead kind of show you that here over on the GR level 3 computer right now. You kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. The lime green color now. Flash flood watch until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Now, the flood watch is trimmed back. That does not include Bradford County or Gainesville proper really anymore, at least east of 75. So that's good news. Still further off toward the west we're watching, so something you got to be mindful of. But again, still watching things very carefully here. Report earlier in Dixie County of waist-deep water behind the Sanchez Farms after another round of heavy rain. We're getting more rain into where that spot now. Standing water reported on Highway 51 north of Highway 19. Flooding reported at the intersection of River Avenue northeast and Highway 51. Roadway flooding reported at the intersection of Highway 19 and Highway 51. And then 24 homes were flooded here in the Cross City area from about 1:10 this afternoon. Gotta be probably getting a little bit worse even in that area. So not good, obviously. Just several reports coming in. Those issues there toward this region. It's pretty isolated except as we're getting over toward a few counties here. So that's the good news, and at least we're not seeing a Zolve or area. Again, not a widespread event, but a few counties that have seen so much rain. Really seeing more rain coming in the picture now, and that's causing the situation to worsen. Now, we did have another line of storms we were tracking. Let's go over on the radar scope, and this is one of the reasons we had that flash flood threat and flood threat kind of go away, per se, more toward areas further off toward the east. So let's go ahead and see this. You can see did have a gust of wind there at the Jacksonville Airport at 43 earlier, but most of the storming is off the coast. But the threat is down here toward parts of Taylor County, Dixie County, and even over toward Lafayette County here as well. So just got to be cognizant of what's going on. Switch over to the Moody Air Force Base radar to give you a better look, or try to give a better look. You see here moderate rain maybe into Cross City. We're looking pretty high up, so it's harder to know exactly what's happening down there at the ground level. And we just got an update from the Weather Service. In fact, in Tallahassee, they're using the words historic flooding now in their latest discussion along the Steinhatchee River. That's going to continue. So let's go ahead and zoom back out just a little bit here. They're saying the main story through Saturday is going to be that issue there, that big time problem in the southeastern Florida Big Bend and other portions of the southeastern Florida Big Bend that have seen over a foot of rain over the last 4 days. So really got to be careful. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit in this discussion because it just came out, kind of get the latest thinking from the Weather Service in Tallahassee here. Something we don't talk about all that often, river flooding. Second worst in the Steinhatchee River area near Cross City. Only Dora was worse. Most other areas not seeing anything like this. So I don't want to alarm you. We're good and stark. Don't worry. It's just a pretty isolated incident here, but significant river flooding there. Flash flooding continuing. Additional 2 to 3 inches of rain with isolated heavier totals expected tonight through Saturday. As we're looking there, ongoing flood in Dixie, also over toward Lafayette County there. Taylor County is going to increase in severity. Of immediate concern are areas around, it looks like Steinhatchee and Taylor County, as well as Cross City and Old Town in Dixie County. These areas have seen significant rains, and with saturated soils, the area is primed for significant flash flooding. We might have to watch out. They're not saying this. I'm going to kind of ad lib here, but there's kind of hinting maybe. Just I'm kind of reading into it. They're not saying this, but I'm thinking it may end up getting a flash flood emergency if things start to deteriorate. If we get more heavy rain, just based on situations I've seen over the years here. So just got to be mindful of that. It appears that the river's likely to crest Saturday morning or early afternoon here, assuming no significant rains in the basin there. As it's well above, looks like it'll be well above that moderate flood level here. Already the second highest level on record since 1950, folks. So this may end up being a major flood situation, and the Weather Service is talking about this potentially even being a historic event with numerous homes and roadways impacted. So this is really taking a turn here. Today, as we were watching, we were seeing the flooding, but now just getting that rain to continue. We're seeing basins overflow here potentially, so that is not what you want to hear about. In the days ahead, the middle and lower Swanee will rise due to the routed flows from upstream. Minor river floods expected from the Rock Bluff southward to Swanee due to the Swanee remaining at well above normal levels, and areas just beyond the river there in Dixie County will continue to experience flooding as rainfall over the wooded swamps will drain much slower into the Swanee River. So Weather Service very concerned, talking about historic flooding, and then I'm kind of adding on to that. If things were to increase, the actual rain levels ongoing were to increase in intensity, it might be talking about a flash flood emergency. I haven't got to that point yet. That's very rare in our area. I don't think it's happened maybe in 5, 6, 7 years, something like that in our viewing circle. I know Tallahassee did issue some there during Sally last year, but we were seeing some of that action there out of our viewing circle. But I know going back several years in the December time frame, Tallahassee was under one. And we've seen some with Debbie and situations like that over the years. But another update now from the Weather Service, they're talking about flooding reported along Northeast 368th Avenue there in Dixie County. So again, pretty serious situation here, folks. As we're emphasizing, most of our area is not. It's not that bad of a story at all. I mean, it's really an isolated scenario. You don't always see this with flooding, but that's what we're seeing here toward a few counties. I mean, other areas are just fine, but a few counties here are really bearing the brunt. It doesn't look that bad on radar. It hasn't looked that bad really all week, but now just day after day after day, getting the rain we got from Elsa, getting the rain we got back in June. It's all coming together here to cause some big time historic potential for flooding toward these areas. So let's go ahead and go back on over now. I know this isn't getting a lot of play really in the local media per se. I mean, starting to get a little more. I know this is an area that's kind of in between some TV markets, so that's why we want to make sure we emphasize that this is part of our area. We cover all the way off toward Tallahassee, all the way down toward Levy County, so it's a situation that we're kind of covering here before many others. It's just a storyline that's impacting a few counties, rural counties, very rural counties out here toward the Southeastern Florida Big Bend. So just want to let you guys know what's going on. I know as we look back on over here, you see more flooding reports on our screen. So we're getting these in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go over these here. Be back in just a couple minutes with more information. So stay tuned, everybody. back with you in the Weather Center at 4:15, just getting those new reports and several new reports coming into the Weather Service system now that we use, the Weather Service chat session. They put these storm reports out. I know it's a pretty rural area we're talking about, so it's a little harder to get information too. So these storm reports really important, and I'll go ahead and put the mouse on the screen now, in fact, so you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about. Each and every one of these reports here just coming on in over the last few minutes. So you see down toward the south here, the Dixie mainline road closed due to flood. And we heard some of this over on that Facebook page update we got from Dixie County a moment ago that I was reading off of. Some of these other road closures as well, Willie Lock Mainline Road, and then you see more of these. We can show these to you here. Several roads closed in Cross City as well. Just kind of reiterating the threat here, just kind of showing you this visually as well. A lot of this stuff we just went over with the Facebook report, but Northeast 210th Avenue closed there, as well as Northeast 214th Avenue and Northeast 162nd Street, and then up toward the north, more road closures as well. And then further up here, you see another road closure we were talking about over toward the Purpose Landing Road area. So just kind of giving that visual now of these new reports here coming into the system that were coming in off of that Facebook update as well. You see heavier rain down toward Chiefland and Levy County. There's no flood alerts down there necessarily, but they are getting some pretty heavy rain, and they've seen a pretty heavy rain situation here toward the Gulf Coast, as we talked about even down there over the last several days. So something to watch. But the bigger dangers here off toward the west, as we've been talking about. Let's go ahead and if you're just tuning in here, I want to go ahead and pop up our river information. I know this is so important, and may even be getting new updates in as I speak here, because this is a rapidly evolving weather situation toward parts of our area, toward parts of Dixie County. We are talking about this area once again. We talked about it during Elsa here, and they got rain from Elsa, and that's a contributing factor here. I mean, the antecedent rainfall, unfortunately now, if we just had this event and it had been dry for a while, maybe a different story, but now we're starting to see some real-time, real big problems here come to fruition, it seems, based on all the reports we're getting this afternoon here. That's why we're kind of sticking with it for a little while. We'll probably go off about 4:30 or so, but just wanted to be on here to give some additional cover to the situation. The latest update, actually 24.12 feet, so not that much higher, luckily, but the highest we've ever been is 26.09. That was after Dora. And this is now the second highest crest ever. 23.97 feet was in 1970. We passed that. So again, this is the second highest crest we've ever seen here at the area around the Steenhatchee River near Cross City. So I just want you guys to be cognizant of what's going on. I just want you guys to understand the gravity of this for these isolated areas. We're talking about rural areas. We're not talking about a huge population, but it is a population we cover nonetheless, and we need to give you guys the coverage. So again, really monitoring everything that's happening. I do have another graphic I can go to, in fact, here as well. That is that rainfall information. We had it up earlier here, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of get things back into the storyline here for that. We'll kind of transition over there in just a second. I know we have so many different things to go between. I'm going to see if we have a new update first, though, from the NASA Weather Service in Tallahassee. We're getting so many new updates, so I want to make sure we're not missing anything, because even as I'm on, I'm getting new information in coming to the chat session, as we were talking about here, being relayed different ways. So just have to be kind of cognizant of what is going on here. I just want to be mindful of what is happening for some of these different communities. So let's go ahead now. I think we have that rainfall estimate graphic up that we were showing you guys earlier on here. So this is what was happening from Monday through about 7 a.m. this morning. This is actually a little bit different view of it, I think, but you kind of get the idea here. Cross City, 6 to 8 inches of rain, and even areas towards Steenhatchee, even more. So that's just problematic here, folks. It's kind of problematic what's been happening here. Tallahassee, not that much rain. No, Thomasville, not much rain. And as we look at, no, it's not on here, but Jacksonville, not much rain either. So it's a isolated situation. Weather Service now sending out a special statement in Jacksonville of a heavy shower impacting some areas. So let's go ahead and go back on over here. You see that new box showing up a special weather statement. Some heavy rain, minor flooding there toward areas around Trenton, The potential of this storminess here moving northeast at 20 out of Levy County. So just kind of exacerbating the situation here, folks. So again, the flooding ongoing here toward the Big Bend area. We have not seen much rain towards dark. I do want to emphasize that. I mean, now parts of Bradford had about 10 inches here as you're looking back toward Wednesday night, but the areas like where I'm at, not that much rain at all. Honestly, not that much rain around Stark here. Not too big of a deal. You're probably wondering why am I on? Because it's not that big of a deal, but unfortunately the pattern with the stationary front has caused issues here toward areas along the southeastern Florida Big Bend. So that's what we need to give you guys the update here on what's happening this afternoon. Give you guys the latest information to protect you, your friends, and your family. Not much wind energy. This is not a severe weather situation. That's why it's a little bit different the way we're doing coverage here. We're not necessarily, if this was a tornado situation, obviously we'd be on for hours and hours, but it still can be impactful, can be deadly. And in some areas, we're talking about more of a slower water rise, like over toward the Senatchee River. It's still rising pretty quick, but it's not necessarily just a flash flood emergency in an urban area like Ellicott City. I know a few years ago, we've had issues there. Even past that, I mean, more than once. That's an urban area where the water's just going to come up so quick and cause you only have minutes to take action. Some spots maybe like that here, but more so a longer time frame we're watching. So let's go ahead now and move away from our one vantage point here and go over toward, it looks like the Dixie County High School weather stem camera. We have that in our system now. So let's go ahead and pop that on up. You guys kind of get an idea of what's going on there. Trying to give you that visual on how the storminess looks. It's still looking pretty dark out there, pretty nasty. And then we have our own camera. We can kind of see what's happening here as we look off toward the west. It's going to be from a distance, a pretty far distance. You're not going to see very much, but it's still kind of helpful in these situations here as well. Our camera here toward the Stark area. So let's go ahead now or jump away from our weather stem technology here. Again, trying to give you this visual outside. Trying to just kind of help you guys understand what's happening. I know I'm not getting that many pictures in from that area as of yet because it's such a isolated area overall. But as we look on over now toward our other source, we're going to go ahead and see what's happening here outside. And you do kind of see the interesting viewpoint, interesting look to the clouds there, the cloud cover. You can kind of see the storminess further on off. So kind of telling that story to some extent here this afternoon. We're keeping you up to date. I know they're getting a little bit of storminess around Tallahassee too, but again, as you saw, not too much overall. This is more, again, of a flood situation here. And the camera kind of adjusts to the sun. I mean, the sun is shining out there. So that's kind of interesting to see. Not everybody obviously getting that. They wish they were getting that out toward the west in some ways so things would dry up. Not too much because if you get a mixed, or I guess I should say not too much of a mixing because if you get too much and you get the instability to go up, we kind of saw that here off toward the east some, but just need a drier day here out toward the west with these high rain chances we've been seeing, unfortunately, being the storyline, the focal point here. And we're going to go over now toward another source. This is a viewpoint of the Moody radar off of our radar scope technology that we're going to go ahead and effort you guys now. You can see here what we're tracking, that storminess there around Cross City. You see some of it kind of breaking up a little there, but right along the Senatchee River. And when you get more rain along that river, that's just going to cause it to rise, obviously. So that's problematic. The forecast and the weather service internally kind of account for that. But they were talking about really not too much because you just really, there's something they really don't track too much there because they actually don't do river forecast on a graphic for that region. It doesn't look like some spots they do like the Fort White area, but it just kind of depends on exactly what's going on here. So kind of have to bear that in mind. Kind of have to keep that in mind here. But it looks like tomorrow could be a historic flood situation over toward the Big Bend region here. So just tracking things very carefully. Watching the flooding situation as things do go on up along that river. Checking the chat for new updates. We're not really seeing anything right now, so that's good news. Anything new in the last couple of minutes. I'll go ahead and zoom out this map a little so we do have a little bit of that storminess off toward the west here in the Big Bend proper, I guess you could say now, the central Big Bend, if you want to call it that, over toward Tallahassee. But the big story off toward the west here, again, do not need more rain towards Steenhatchee here, folks. This is a pretty big event. I'm going to get the second highest river level. May end up, hopefully it doesn't, but may end up surpassing Dora in 64. And when you're talking about something like that, it deserves some coverage here out toward our western areas. Again, we're talking about Taylor County, parts of Lafayette County there, as well as Dixie County. So just want to be on guard here about what's happening. This is something that these folks are having to deal with. You see a little lightning, heavier rain there, northern parts there of Levy, and then into southern Gilchrist County. It's more of a heavy sour situation. They are under the flood watch, though, from the Jacksonville office up into toward Gilchrist County. So we'll be watching for that. That watch still in play there. Let's go back over to our other source here. This flash flood warning, by the way, goes till 5:45. It's a different color because it's a considerable threat, something we don't always see around here. That's why on this one system, the other system, it's going to be the standard color, but that's why it's that maroonish color. If it was a flash flood emergency, we'd see an extra black strip added to that. I know we have different levels for this. Severe thunderstorm warning now, too, as we've talked about, and our system would do the same thing. We finally had destructive alert issued out toward, I believe, Nebraska yesterday. Destructive severe thunderstorm warning, the first one there triggering on those devices. I know this is a type of situation where when you get to the higher levels, they trigger on the devices as well for the flash flooding threat. So you have to be kind of careful here. Rain breaking up some around Cross City, but they just had so much rain. The ground and the soils, they just can't take it anymore. The soil moisture levels there are really, really high. So I just have to be kind of cognizant of that. Just not able to absorb it at this point. So I just have to be really kind of on guard here again. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up in just a moment. No new information right now, but that flash flood warning goes to 5:45. I think that'll probably be extended here. It'll probably be extended later on, at least some type of flood warning for sure for this area. Pretty big type of threat as we've been talking about. We may or may not come back on depending on how this gets issued. If it's a flash flood emergency, we'll come back on for sure. But if it's just another considerable, may just go ahead and post it here. We're just going to check for new information. We'll be on if necessary here during the evening, tomorrow, just whatever happens. If it's warranted, we'll come back on. I may not need to if there's not a lot of new rainfall. It's more just the river flooding. We can kind of keep you updated here through any social media posts. I know Cloud_WX on Twitter has those latest river flooding graphics as well now. So that's helpful. You have cloudradar.com/radar2 for the latest, where you can use that interactive look at things to see where the moisture is concentrated. So for meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here as we're trying to keep you, your friends, and your family safe this afternoon. So thanks so much for tuning in, and trust in me.